Am. When you wake up in the morning, before the noise of the world rushes in am, there is a small but critical window where your mind is most open, most suggestible, and most vulnerable. Am. In that moment, the first thoughts you feed yourself are not just casual reflections. They are the seeds that will govern your mood, your focus, and ultimately the choices you make throughout the day. Think of it like programming a system. Every word you speak to yourself in that fragile state becomes a line of code that runs in the background of your consciousness. If you speak doubt, you program hesitation. If you speak fear, you program limitation. But if you speak strength, you program possibility. That is why self-dialogue is not a trivial practice. It is the architecture of your destiny. Most people underestimate how powerful the inner voice really is. What am? They assume their thoughts are simply random reflections of their state of mind, when in reality, what am? Those thoughts are the architects of their state of mind. The way you talk to yourself does not just describe your reality, it shapes it. You tell yourself you are tired, and your body listens. You tell yourself you are incapable, and your mind begins to shut doors. But if you tell yourself you are capable, worthy, disciplined, and resilient, the chemistry in your brain begins to align with that belief. Your nervous system listens. Your body prepares itself for action. In other words, your inner dialogue literally becomes the blueprint your body follows. Science has shown us this repeatedly. What the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is real. Athletes visualize winning before they ever step onto the field. Leaders imagine success before they ever step into the boardroom. Musicians hear the notes in their heads before their fingers touch the instrument. In the same way, your daily self-talk is rehearsal for reality. The question is, what reality are you rehearsing every morning? One of expansion, growth, and confidence, or one of fear, resistance, and stagnation? Let me put it simply, every morning you are hypnotizing yourself. The only difference is whether you are doing it consciously or unconsciously. If you roll out of bed and immediately think about your problems, your failures, or the weight of yesterday's regrets, what you have already hypnotized yourself into carrying the same emotional baggage into a new day. What But if you consciously speak words of power, if you intentionally direct your inner voice, what then you hypnotize yourself into alignment with a greater version of you. You literally choose your frequency for the day. Now here's where the psychology deepens. Self-dialogue is not just about positive affirmations, though those can be helpful. It is about identity. Because you will never consistently act in a way that contradicts the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you tell yourself, I am lazy, no matter how many goals you set, what your actions will eventually conform to that identity. If you tell yourself, am disciplined, your actions rise to meet that standard. Identity precedes action, and language is what crystallizes identity. Every time you say, I am, you are laying down a neurological track in your brain. Telling your subconscious what reality to reinforce. This is why those morning words matter so deeply. Think about this. How many times in your life have you told yourself, I can't? How many times have you looked in the mirror and repeated the narrative of limitation? Every repetition is like carving a groove in stone. Eventually, the groove becomes so deep that even when you want to change, your mind automatically slides back into the old story. The This is why transformation begins with self-dialogue, because the moment you start telling yourself a new story, you begin to carve a new groove, a new pathway, a new possibility. But here's the paradox. You don't have to believe it at first. You don't have to feel it. That's where most people give up. They speak strength once, and when it doesn't feel true, they retreat back into the old story. But belief is not built in a day. It is built through repetition. Just as the old grooves of doubt were carved through years of repetition, the new grooves of strength are carved the same way, by repeating, by persisting, by continuing to tell yourself who you are becoming, not just who you have been. What am? Imagine the difference between two people waking up tomorrow morning. One of them looks at themselves and says, another day, same problems, I'll just get through it. The other looks at themselves and says, today is my opportunity. I am capable. I am strong. I am moving forward. Which one do you think will carry energy into their work? Which one will notice opportunities others overlook? Which one will feel alive instead of drained? The words may seem small, but the outcomes will be worlds apart. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, understand that you are not just brushing your teeth and drinking your coffee. What you are programming your destiny with the words you speak to yourself. This is the ultimate responsibility, and it is also the ultimate power. No one can take it from you. The world can tell you who you are, what but unless you repeat it to yourself, it cannot stick. You are the gatekeeper of the most important story, the one you tell yourself every morning. And so the challenge is simple, but not easy. Choose your words with intention. Speak not from the voice of your past, what but from the voice of your future. Talk to yourself as if you already are the person you want to become. Because the moment you do, you set in motion a process that reshapes your brain, your body, and your life. What So let me leave you with this thought. The most dangerous thing you can say to yourself each morning is nothing. Silence is not neutral. It is permission for old habits to run the show. But the most powerful thing you can say is a conscious declaration of who you choose to be. Say it until it becomes true. Say it until your life bends to match your words. Because destiny is not written by circumstance, it is written by self-dialogue. Closing statement every morning. What you are either reinforcing the story of your limitations or rewriting the story of your possibilities. Which story will you choose to tell yourself? Tomorrow, human beings don't act according to what they want. They act according to who they believe they are. That is why identity always precedes action. You can write down 100 goals. You can make the most detailed plans. But if the image you hold of yourself doesn't align with those goals, your actions will sabotage you. Because at the deepest level, your behavior is nothing more than a mirror of your identity. Most people fail not because they lack ability, but because they are trapped in an outdated story about themselves. They say they want to be healthy, but they still see themselves as the person who can't resist junk food. They say they want to build wealth. What but deep down, they see themselves as someone who never gets ahead. They want the goal, but the identity hasn't shifted. And here's the truth. Your brain will always fight to stay consistent with your identity. That is why when you tell yourself every morning who you are, you're not just speaking words. You're writing the code of your future actions. Think about the words, I am. They are the two most powerful words in any language, am, because whatever follows them begins to shape your reality. When you declare, I am disciplined, you are not simply hoping for discipline, am. You are commanding your body and mind to align with that state, am. You are declaring to your subconscious that this is your identity, what am. And your subconscious will look for ways to prove it true. But if you wake up every morning and your first thought is, I am tired, I am stressed, I am unlucky, your subconscious will also prove that true. Identity is not what happens to you. Identity is what you choose to reinforce. Neuroscience shows us that every thought you repeat becomes a physical structure in your brain. Neurons that fire together wire together. So every time you affirm an identity, whether positive or negative, you are strengthening that circuit. And the stronger the circuit, the more natural the behavior feels. This is why transformation feels so difficult. It's not just about forcing new actions. It's about rewiring the very circuits of who you believe you are. Let's take an example. What Imagine two people who are both trying to quit smoking. The first person, when offered a cigarette, says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. The second person says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. Who do you think is more likely to succeed? The first is still attached to the old identity. What They are trying to change their behavior while clinging to the story of the smoker. The second has already shifted identity. They are no longer fighting the old habit. They have declared a new self, and their actions flow naturally from that declaration. This is why every morning before you do anything else, what you must declare your identity. If you want to be disciplined, don't just set alarms. Tell yourself, I am disciplined. If you want to be confident, don't just read motivational quotes. Tell yourself, I am confident. If you want to be healthy, don't just buy vitamins. Tell yourself, I am healthy. Because once you claim the identity, the actions that follow are no longer forced. They are congruent. They feel natural because you are simply acting like yourself. And let's go deeper. What identity is not just about personal goals. It is about your relationship with reality. If you wake up every morning identifying as a victim, life will confirm it. You will find reasons to feel powerless. You will see obstacles everywhere. You will unconsciously sabotage your progress. What But if you wake up every morning identifying as a creator, life will also confirm it. You will see opportunities. You will find solutions. You will take ownership. What The identity you wear becomes the lens through which you see the world. But here's the challenge. Many people confuse identity with memory. They believe they are defined by their past. They say, this is just who I am. This is how I've always been. But identity is not memory. Identity is a choice. What Just because you have been undisciplined in the past does not mean you must carry that into your future. Just because you failed before does not mean you are a failure now. Your past is an experience, not a definition. The moment you realize that, you take back your power. You are not who you were yesterday. You are who you decide to be today. And that decision begins with language. Every morning when you say, I am, you are no longer speaking about the past. You are designing the future. You are telling your brain which circuits to strengthen, which possibilities to prioritize, and which behaviors to normalize. That is the power of identity-based self-dialogue. It goes beyond willpower. beyond temporary motivation. It transforms your actions at the root, am, because you are no longer forcing yourself to act differently. You are becoming someone new. What am? So here is the question you must face. Who are you telling yourself you are every morning? Am. Are you repeating the old identity, reinforcing the same patterns, locking yourself into the same cycles? Am. Or are you boldly declaring the identity of the person you want to become, even before it fully feels real? What am? Because the moment you declare it, you set in motion a process where your actions, your habits, and eventually your entire life begin to align with that new identity. Every great transformation in history, what am, whether personal or societal, began with a shift in identity. Nations rise when their people decide, am, we are free. Movements begin when someone declares, am, I am capable of change. Lives transform when an individual wakes up and says, I am not who I was yesterday, I am more. So tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, am, don't just step into the day. Step into a new identity. Declare it. Own it. Speak it until your body believes it, am, until your actions reflect it, until your life embodies it. Because at the end of the day, am, your destiny will not rise to the level of your goals. It will fall to the level of your identity. Closing statement. The most powerful thing you can do each morning is not to set a new goal, am, but to declare a new identity. Because once you decide who you are, your actions will never betray you. Am. When you wake up in the morning, your mind has two choices. Am. You can immediately dive into the stress of unfinished tasks, yesterday's regrets, am, or tomorrow's uncertainties. Or you can anchor yourself in gratitude. And that choice is not small. Am. It sets the entire emotional frequency of your day. Gratitude is not just a polite habit. Am. It is a powerful psychological and physiological state that alters the way your brain and body function. Am. Most people think of gratitude as something you practice when life is good, when everything is flowing the way you want. You want to feel like, what am? But true gratitude is not about waiting for the perfect circumstances. Am. It is about choosing to feel abundant before the evidence shows up. When you wake up and say to yourself, am, I am grateful for this breath. I am grateful for this day. Am, I am grateful for the chance to begin again. You are training your brain to see possibility instead of limitation. Am, you are shifting from survival into creation. Here's why that matters. When you wake up in stress, am, your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. You enter fight or flight even if nothing is chasing you. In that state, am, your vision narrows, your thinking becomes rigid, and you see the world only through the lens of problems. Am. But when you wake up in gratitude, your body releases dopamine and serotonin. These are the chemicals of joy, focus, what am, and calm. Gratitude literally rebalances your nervous system, turning off survival mode and turning on creativity. Am. It doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you function better. Now, what am? Think of the way most people start their mornings. They check their phone. They see the news, the emails, am, the notifications, the problems waiting for them. And instantly their mind attaches to stress. What am? They have not even stepped out of bed, but they are already programming their day for reactivity. And gratitude interrupts that pattern. By consciously choosing to focus on what is already good, am, you break the automatic loop of negativity. You reclaim control of your emotional state before the world can hijack it. What am, but gratitude does more than shift emotions. It changes perspective. What am? A grateful mind looks at the same situation differently. Where others see a burden, gratitude sees a blessing. What am? Where others see lack, gratitude sees possibility. Where others see obstacles, gratitude sees training. What am? This doesn't mean you ignore problems. It means you see them from a higher altitude. Am, you realize that even within struggle, there is something to be thankful for. Whether it is the lesson am, the strength it builds, or the opportunity to grow. And here's the paradox. When you live in gratitude, am, you are not only appreciating what you have, you are also attracting more of it. Am, because your subconscious mind is wired to filter the world according to what you focus on. What am? If you wake up focused on problems, your brain scans for more problems. If you wake up focused on gratitude, am, your brain scans for more things to appreciate. Gratitude trains your perception to notice abundance. Am. And the more you notice, the more opportunities you see, the more doors open, the more energy you feel. Am. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine two people walking into the same workplace. One is focused on stress. I hate this job. I hate my boss. Nothing ever changes. The other is focused on gratitude. Am. I am thankful I have an income. I am thankful I have skills. Am. I am thankful for the people I get to learn from. Which one will have more energy? What am? Which one will build better relationships? Which one will notice opportunities for growth? Am. Gratitude doesn't change the external situation immediately. Am. But it changes the internal state. And that internal state determines how you interact with reality. Am. This is why the most successful people in every field begin their day with gratitude. Am, not because their lives are perfect, but because they understand that gratitude unlocks energy. Am. And energy is the foundation of achievement. You cannot be creative, disciplined, or resilient if you are drained. Am. Gratitude refuels you. It tells your nervous system, I am safe, I am supported, I am abundant. And from that place, you can move forward with strength. Now, let's address the objection people often have. They say, but how can I feel grateful when my life is hard? What am? When I don't have what I want yet. And the answer is this: gratitude is not about denying your challenges. Am. It is about deciding that even in the midst of difficulty, what am, you will focus on what empowers you instead of what weakens you. What am. Because if you wait for perfect conditions to feel grateful, you will wait forever. But if you choose gratitude now, what am, you shift your state immediately, and that new state creates the very conditions you are waiting for. Am. Gratitude is not the result of abundance. Gratitude is the beginning of abundance. So tomorrow morning, what am? When you open your eyes, don't just think about what's missing. Think about what's present. Your breath. Am. Your heartbeat, your ability to choose. These are miracles we overlook because they are constant. Am. But the moment you start to see them, really see them, you realize you already live in abundance. Am. And from that realization, you begin to attract more abundance. Let me put it simply. Gratitude is not just an emotion. Am. Gratitude is a decision. And when you make that decision every morning, you change the chemistry of your body. What am? The focus of your mind and the trajectory of your life. Closing statement: gratitude is the doorway to energy, clarity, am, and abundance. And every morning you hold the key. The only question is, will you unlock it? Every morning, am. When the light of a new day touches your eyes, what am? You are being handed a gift that is far greater than most people ever recognize. Am. It is not just another page on the calendar, not just another cycle of hours repeating endlessly. It is a rebirth, a chance to step out of who you were yesterday and into who you choose to be today. What am? But here is the tragedy. most people do not treat their mornings as new beginnings. What am? They treat them as extensions of the past. They wake up carrying yesterday's anger, yesterday's fear, yesterday's identity, and without realizing it, they unconsciously drag all of that into today. And so life begins to feel repetitive. The same problems, the same patterns, the same emotions looping over and over again. They say they want change. What am? But change is impossible when every morning is lived as nothing more than yesterday repeated. What am? Transformation begins the moment you decide that the sunrise is not a continuation. It is a reset. You see, your brain is a prediction machine. Every day it looks at the past and assumes that the future will be the same. That is why so many people feel stuck. They wake up and their first thought is a memory. Their first emotion is a habit. Their first action is automatic. And so, without conscious awareness, the past becomes the present. The past becomes the future. That is what we call living on autopilot. But what happens if you disrupt that? What happens if, instead of waking up and unconsciously replaying yesterday, you wake up and declare, this is new. I am new. Today is a rebirth. At that moment, what you take your mind out of the predictable past and place it in the field of possibility. You are no longer bound to the grooves of memory. You are standing in the freedom of creation. What And this is where morning self-dialogue becomes sacred. Because when you consciously tell yourself who you are and what today means, you are cutting ties with the old patterns. You are reminding your subconscious that you are not a prisoner of yesterday. You are the author of today. The words you choose become the brushstrokes with which you paint this new canvas. Now, think about the emotional weight many people carry into the morning. Regret, disappointment, fear of failure, resentment. These emotions are all rooted in the past. They are ghosts of what has already happened. But if every morning you allow those ghosts to walk into your present, you are reliving the same story instead of writing a new one. Rebirth means choosing to let them go. What It means acknowledging, yes, yesterday happened, but today is unformed. Today is possibility. And there is something profoundly spiritual about this truth. Every night when you sleep, a part of you dies. The old day dies. The old opportunities die. The old failures die. And when you open your eyes again, you are literally resurrected into a new moment of life. To ignore, that is to waste the miracle. To embrace it is to unlock transformation. Ask yourself, how would you live if you truly believed that every morning was a rebirth? Would you still cling to grudges? Would you still limit yourself with old labels? Would you still replay the same excuses? Or would you wake up with curiosity, with possibility, with the courage to reinvent? Because the truth is, the people who live extraordinary lives are not the ones who never failed. They are the ones who refuse to let failure become their permanent identity. They woke up each morning as someone new. This is why morning rituals matter. It's not about routine. It's about rebirth. When you meditate in the morning, what you are clearing space for a new self. When you affirm your identity, you are declaring who you choose to be today. When you express gratitude, you are shifting into abundance. These practices are not mechanical. They are symbolic acts of dying to the old self and stepping into the new. So tomorrow when you wake up, don't just think of it as getting out of bed. Think of it as being born again. Look in the mirror and see not the accumulation of your past, but the possibility of your future. Am, speak words that align with who you are becoming, not just who you were. What am? Because when you treat the morning as a rebirth, you unlock the courage to change, the energy to create, am, and the freedom to live beyond repetition. And remember, this life does not change in years or even in months. Am, life changes in mornings. Each morning carries within it the power to reset your trajectory. Am, each morning is a choice to either repeat the past or step into the new. What am? The difference between those two choices is the difference between living a life of limitation and living a life of expansion. Am. So let me leave you with this. You cannot control the length of your life, but you can control its depth. Am. And depth is found in living each day as if it is the first, not the thousandth. Each sunrise is an invitation. Am. The invitation is simple, begin again. Closing statement, am. Every morning is not just the start of another day. It is the rebirth of who you are becoming. What am? Don't waste it repeating the past. Use it to create the future.